You're on the air with Air Raid Radio with hosts Amy Loria
and Kara White. Our show features women in aviation, including those who have made history and those who are currently making shockwaves of their own.
Every show, we will hail a badass lady or two who was too remarkable to ignore.
Hold on to your hats. Here comes Air Raid Radio.
You've been warned.
We are a pre-recorded show. If you'd like to call in and leave a comment, call us at 478-787-4768 or comment on our Facebook page and we will answer them on our next show.
Our show is sponsored by Hemlock Films and Spotlight Business Solutions. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Air Raid Radio. We are very excited for our show today. Our guest today is Commander Meagan Flannigan. She's an awesome naval aviator who's flown Tomcats, which I'm super excited to hear about, and Super Hornets. But in addition to that, we thought, Kara and I thought we would talk about or have Commander Meagan on because Captain Marvel is so big right now. And, while she's Air Force, Commander Meagan Flannigan is a very, very cool lady that we wanted to have on to kind of bring you a real live Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and she's great. So, Amy, did you get to see Captain Marvel?
I finally did. It took us a while, but Jim and I went and saw it on Tuesday, and I was really impressed. I didn't realize she was such a badass. Sometimes I get a little disappointed with female characters, especially the superheroes. They kind of fall flat, and I thought it was really good.
No, I was very, very excited for this one. I like all the superhero movies. For the most part, I do. But I was very, very excited to get to see Captain Marvel, who was also in the Air Force and flies airplanes, which I was like, that's pretty cool. I really honestly didn't know much about the character. I
didn't either.
But after
I had no idea.
Yeah. After we saw the movie, I I got them for the Kindle, a couple of the comic books of the new version that I guess this one's based on. I'm totally, comic book fans will get mad. I think it's the one they've based the movie off of, but it's kind of really interesting to read the comic book and learn all that stuff. Like I did not do my research. I can't think of the name of the gal who draws and writes Captain Marvel now. Oh. But I want to say it's the first issue. It's one of the first ones that she ends up time traveling and meeting the Wasp, but it's like an alternate timeline where...
Yeah, you told me about that.
They're in Peru, like running around the jungle fighting the Japanese. And like the plane they flew was the alien airplane that Captain Marvel finds or something. Or like, all of this is really wrong, but the drawing of the ladies is like they're tank girls, which I love Tank Girl. I was like, this is amazing. So inaccurate, but amazing. I'll take this any day.
I need to check that out.
It's really cool. I'm just have to see if I can share it with you. Somehow you can share those on the Kindle.
Yeah, that'd be great. But I was really impressed too. That was the movie was set in 1994.
Yeah,
my high school career flashed before my eyes.
Yeah, totally. I was able to determine the year by the posters that were behind her at the phone booth with the
Melancholy and the Infinite
You
Sadness.
got it. I was like, I recognize those albums, and I think I was like 14 when I bought those, so it must be 1994.
Yeah. The 9 Inch Nails t-shirt and everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So
yeah, that's what I think. I think I posted at some point where it was like, if you're a girl that grew up in the 90s, you'll like it.
Very true. It's very true.
Thank you, Adam White. Adam White is helping us with our show. The gal who writes the new Captain Marvel is Kelly Sue DeConnick. It's like, that's her name.
I tried to do a quick search and I couldn't find it either.
Yeah. It's called True Believers, Captain Marvel, Earth's Mightiest Hero #1, which I also very new to reading comic books. So at the end of the comic books, or at least these ones, have like a page where it's kind of like a letter to the editor. and they'll have fans' letters that they write in, and then the responses. And it's an overwhelming number of ones that are like, I don't like her new outfit because it's a full suit instead of if you've looked up the old Captain Marvel images of her, it's like her fighting in a bathing suit, and not a nice bathing suit, a very small bathing suit. So now her suit is like what you see in the movie where it's head to toe and it's like armor, and people are just like, I don't like it. And by people, you can guess who that would be. I did not see any women writing in that.
I'm sure
they were upset by the outfit change.
I'm sure. Yeah, it looks like the old outfit that she wore was very much just like a bathing suit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
with a little like lightning bolt on it.
That's what I want to fight crime in.
Right. I want something that's going to ride right up my hindquarters.
Yes.
Like,
I'm constantly concerned about coming off.
Right. Yeah. Like I don't want full body protection at all.
No, like suit of armor, who needs that?
No. Like Wonder Woman, I totally understand her outfit. She even says in the movie, she needs it for flexibility.
Yeah,
I get
she's
it.
like, how do you fight in this? Which, cool.
There's an explanation. I get it.
Yeah, that movie's also
I don't know.
awesome.
I really liked her suit, especially in the movie.
Yeah. It makes her look like a badass. Yeah, and it's functional.
Yeah. I mean, Captain America and Iron Man, they have full suits.
Yeah.
Why can't we?
Right, exactly. Adam also reminded me of the movie poster kerfuffle with her not smiling. Did you see that go by?
No.
Yeah. People were, again, on the internet giving her slack.
That she was
not smiling.
Yeah.
And she's like, so she went around photoshopping smiles on Captain America and Iron Man and Thor.
That's awesome.
Like, see, it looks silly.
Why should she smile?
Why should the superhero
badass
smile?
chick who's getting what done? Like, she doesn't have to smile.
Yeah. I one of my favorite parts of that movie was, and it sounds so stupid, but it's the part where her and her friend, who are both pilots, sitting at a table talking about doing what they do.
Right.
And I was just like, it just made me so happy that it wasn't like they didn't throw a joke in and they didn't make them feminize it, where it's like, oh, you should say something about like girly or whatever. Right. It was just literally two pilots sitting at a table talking. And I was like, this is amazing.
Apparently the one of the female editors fought to keep that scene. Is that right?
Adam is nodding at me. I don't know this story.
Yeah. Interesting.
Adam, do you want to fill us in?
Sorry, I'm off mic. Female editor that was cutting that movie cut it in a different way than they initially wanted it to, because she wanted to watch the interaction between the two ladies as opposed to sort of diffusing the emotion with it and cutting away and getting on with the movie.
Right.
She fought for the fact that was the movie.
That's awesome. I love that. Because it also...
I think it made such a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think just displaying that on screen is fantastic. Like, normalize it. Yeah. Like, don't make it a thing.
And that's what I liked about the movie so much, too, is that it wasn't like, oh, look at them. They're female pilots. It was like, they're female pilots. Right. It wasn't a big deal. It was just...
They're pilots.
They're doing their job. Yeah, they were just pilots.
And total badasses.
Can we talk about the cat for a second?
You want to talk about the cat? Sorry, we're getting way off topic. The Flurkin.
I don't know if we want to give spoilers or not. We'll have to warn people.
Oh, too late, everybody.
I hope you saw the movie.
Because I'm about to spoil it.
It's been out for a month. 2 months.
It has been out for a month. I think it's appropriate amount of time. Enough time has passed in the etiquette of film watchers that you should know that if you have not seen it, we're going to ruin it for you.
Hashtag we're ruining this.
Hashtag ruining.
No, I thought the whole movie was really good. Yeah. And I haven't left a movie pleasantly surprised like that in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was like, as far as movies go, I was like, it was good. And it wasn't fantastic, but it was good. And I was pleased with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it was good quality entertainment.
Yeah. And I adore that what they were showing, and Adam's mentioning that it led to the Air Force ad campaign, which is pretty badass. So before we went to see the movie, I saw the commercial online and I was like, that's pretty cool. And then they played it before the movie, and when you walk out of the movie and it's all over, you're like, yeah, that's really, really cool. Like, it's like, it makes you want to, like,
on our Facebook page.
Yeah, it makes you want to, like, strut out of the theater because you're like, wow, it was really cool.
Yeah. They didn't, when we went, they didn't have it before the movie come out, but I watched the commercial beforehand, and I don't know, again, I felt like they're trying to promote that, women are in aviation, which is great, but it wasn't like overly done. You know, it wasn't.
Again, it's just showing by example. It's like, hey, look, women do this. It's not that big a deal, or it shouldn't be that big a deal. Like, let's make it so that it's not a thing anymore. Like, pilots are pilots.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, if you're young or old or whoever. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. Plus, Captain Marvel totally just destroys spaceships with her body.
Yeah, if I was a superhero, I would want that. Like, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. She just totally blasts through. Like, I was like, why don't you lead with that? Just comes in and tears the ship apart while she's laughing. Just utter joy of like, wow, I can tear this spaceship apart. She was learning, as Adam points out, she was learning what she could do. And going, oh, that's cool.
Hey, by the way, I can disintegrate things with my bare hands.
Apparently, cool. I can just blast through a spaceship and destroy it.
Yeah, she should have led with that.
You should have led with that. Yeah. Like, what'd you say when you text? I can't remember what your text was when you said you saw it. You're like, yeah, she's like the most powerful Avenger. And I'm like, apparently, who disappeared forever.
Well, yeah, because she's off protecting
she's off
universe
saving the universe.
Jim and I were talking about her power, and she really is. I think she's the first Avenger, at least according to the movies. I think she is according to the comic books too. Yeah, it's just cool that she's the first one and she's the most powerful.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting with the at the end when they show her plane and it has Avenger written on it underneath or on her window, or I'm like, that's pretty good. Like, with the Wasp or Avenger Field.
Right.
Like, I'm sure that's probably not the comic book lore reference, but it's pretty cool.
No, but I mean, it ties in and it works well, so let's stick with that.
Yeah. No.
Do what you want.
Yeah, do what you want.
Right? Yeah. I'm feeling that, so we're going with it.
I like it.
In comparison, I'm really excited to have Meegan on, though, because she did that in real life. She did not, I should preface that, she did not split apart ships with her bare hands.
She didn't fly around and blow up a spaceship?
No, she did not do that.
Maybe. We don't know. We haven't asked her that question.
That's true.
She very well will.
We should have her. We'll have to have her on a couple of times and talk about whether or not she's blown up spaceships.
Do you have a bad accident that gave you superpowers? Oh, no, I just thought that happened to everybody.
I just wanted to ask. But, I mean, she's done some pretty incredible things. And we're going to talk about it when she comes on. But I don't want to give more spoilers or anything.
We should also ask her if she has a flirkin. Or are all cats flirkins?
I think they might be. I'm not sure. I think they might be.
Mine definitely
is. A lot of weird stuff.
I thought we were supposed to be talking about women in aviation on this show.
Yeah, we always go to women, aviation, and cats.
Sorry, Mom. That's okay.
And now we've upgraded to giving people spoilers.
I know. Sorry. And talking really crappily about comic books because my brain can't remember anything anymore.
If we can't geek out on the space cats. Oh my God, space cats! If we can't geek out on our podcast,
then what's the point of this?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Oh man.
Speaking of that comic book, they also had a storyline with the Mercury 13 and a little bit of Powder Puff Derby in there, which was pretty cool. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
really cool.
Yeah, definitely. You guys should share that with you. So, Amy, you just had your swing dance with the Minnesota wing, correct?
Yeah, we did. It was really successful. We had about 1,500 people in the hangar. Everybody had a really, really great time, and we're looking forward to our fall dance, which is September 14th. So if you're in the area in the Twin Cities, come and check us out. And if you want to make a special trip down, that would be great too. We'd love to have some new faces. You could fly in with your airplane. Or we could pick you up at the airport too.
Yeah. Just call Amy.
Just call me.
She'll come get you. She
In
did
my
for us.
Fiat.
Yeah. Yeah. I was there as well, and it was very fun. It was
a lot of fun having you guys.
It was so much fun. I love the dance. So yeah, if you should come check it out. Lots of people, lots of dancing, and
lots of great costumes.
Lots of great costumes. And if you end up standing on the edge of the dance floor, somebody will pick you up in seconds and make you dance with them, which is pretty fun.
And they all know how to dance really well. We've got a lot of people who really know their stuff. So, don't be afraid if you don't know how to dance. Because I don't know how to dance, and it's never a problem.
I don't either, and I danced a lot. You just end up getting somebody who can lead you, I guess.
Yeah.
And it all works out, and you're like, I think I look like I'm doing something. So.
I'm going to make this look good.
Right. No matter what, it's just fun.
Yeah,
so
it is. But we'll post information on our Facebook page about it too, so that you guys get more information on the date and time. And you guys have a big premiere coming up too, don't you? At Oshkosh.
I literally was like, what are you talking about? I'm tired.
Because? Why are you tired?
I'm tired because I've been editing our movie all day. Wow, my brain is mush. Sitting in front of a computer trying to make artistic decisions all day really scrambles your brains like eggs.
Stay lost.
I really wish this were not a radio program and you could see Amy and I Skype with each other while we're doing this so we can see each other, so we can see who's going to talk next. And I just wish we had videoed it. Anyway, yes, we do have a big premiere coming up at Oshkosh this year. We will be premiering Rise Above Wasp in the trailer that the Rise Above Tuskegee Airmen movie is playing in. It's going to get installed in there. So awesome. If you are at Oshkosh, please come by and see the new movie about the Wasp. I am very excited about it and very proud of it. So it's going to be awesome. It looks really good so far. It's just the editing process is a process where there's a lot to do. Technically, there's a lot to do.
Is it time to?
I know. I'm seeing the time cue. Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. So we should probably bring Meegan onto the show.
Right now, we're going to welcome to the show Commander Meagan Flannigan. Meegan is a naval aviator, and we are so excited to have you on our show.
Hi, Meegan.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, Meegan, I've got a question for you, and it's kind of debated, my husband and I. He suggested we call you a naval aviator, but a couple people I've seen have done interviews with you and called you a Navy fighter pilot. Which do you prefer?
Oh man, my Hilo friends are probably dying to know my answer. I will say naval aviator. I will say the general, like all of us, one fight as the Navy pilot crew, the cadre. I'll go naval aviator.
Okay.
Because I remember going in flight school, you walk into Pensacola and it says like, through these doors walks the future of naval aviation, which, always has a special place in my heart. That's signed. So naval aviator.
Very cool.
Well, I'm glad I called you that then.
Yes.
So how did you become a naval aviator?
Well, I was about to say it's easy, but that's sort of not an accurate statement. I won't go into the why, but I decided to go to the Naval Academy because I knew I wanted to be a fighter pilot. My parents said, "Oh, you can go to the Naval Academy, and when you graduate, you can be a pilot." I said, "Okay, well, I'll go do that," because I didn't really know another way at that young age. Later on, I would hear about Navy ROTC scholarships and everything else, but I had kind of gotten my heart set on the academy by then. So I went through the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and then depending on how you're ranked within your class, you're able to say, I'd like to go, these are my first, second, third choices to service select after you graduate. And so I put Navy pilot as my first choice. And I was kind of dead center of the class, which is good enough the year I graduated to get a Navy pilot spot. And then went on to graduate, went to flight school in Pensacola, Florida, where I did initial flight training in the T-34 Charlie Mentor, which is a turboprop airplane. And then after I finished primary flight training, I had a good enough score within flight school, and then my timing was good enough that when I finished, there were jet spots available, because timing is very crucial within what you service select, and then also what you selected when you're in flight school. And I selected into advanced jet training in Kingsville, Texas, and I went to fly the T-45 Alpha Goshawk, which is a really fun single-engine jet, and then did about a year of training in the Goshawk before I was winged. And then after, again, at the end, you can kind of say these are my preferences of what I want to do. And I was very fortunate that I selected into the F-14 community. And I was the very last winging class out of Navy flight school to select into Tomcats. So there were 4 of us that were selected, and we were it.
Wow.
We were the last 4 pilots, so I just made it.
Wow.
Which is totally surreal, and timing's everything. So I was happy that I was smart enough to get a jet spot a pilot spot out of the Naval Academy, but I was low enough in the class that by the time I had to pick my start date for flight school, I could either give up some of my leave after I graduated and go down to flight school immediately, or I could go after Christmas. And I was like, well, I don't want to wait. I'm just going to go right away. And thank God I did, because if I hadn't, there's no chance I would have gotten to fly the Tomcat. So, a little bit of luck, a little bit of not that smart. So you had to pick one or the other, but it all worked out.
Oh my gosh. What year was that?
2002 is when I graduated, and then I winged in January of 2004. So that's when they had decided Tomcat is going to be decommissioned. And then by the time, so when I got to the Tomcat RAG, the FRS, the Fleet Replacement Squadron, which is the squadron where they train you to fly your fleet aircraft, there were, I think, 9 squadrons left. They were all in Oceana and Virginia Beach. And then the squadron slowly started continuing basically to transition to the Super Hornet. And so when I went on deployment, there were 2 squadrons left, and we deployed in the last deployment and came back and then immediately transitioned to the Super Hornet. It's crazy.
Wow. What was it like being the last class to fly the Tomcat?
First of all, thank you so much for just saying what it was like to be the last class, because so many people are always like, you're the last female pilot. And I always say, I was one of the last pilots, not a female. It was just the end of an era.
Yeah.
There were some really cool things about it, because it was the end of this really iconic sort of cowboy, really great fighter spirit thing that was just part of being a Tomcat pilot. So it was just awesome to be a part of that, and everyone knew we were sundowning, and it was the end of an era. And so I think it was really special to be a part of it. And I'm so happy that I got to experience it, because we had the same squadron. We transitioned as a squadron to the Super Hornet, and the squadron was not the same in the Super Hornet as it was in the Tomcat. The fighter spirit just did not quite go into the new airplane. It's really hard to describe, and there's a lot of things I think that contributed to it, but it was just a completely different. It was just a different vibe. It was a different thing to fly the Tomcat. It was just really fun. It was balls to the wall. Just everything was full throttle. It just was a different thing. So I was just an honor to get to experience it. And now it's funny, because I'm like, oh, I flew the Tomcat. And we're like, oh, you're old.
Yeah. That was one of the first things somebody said to me. They're like, oh, she must be old. I'm like, she's not old.
It's all relative. I don't feel old.
Yeah.
I do have gray hairs now, but come on.
I
feel young.
Okay. People do too.
Yes.
Totally.
So what was that like? Do you remember your last flight in the Tomcat? Was that bittersweet?
Oh, I totally do. I actually flew my jet with my name on it to the Boneyard in Tucson.
Wow.
Wisconsin. Yeah, so it was cool, because I remember specifically, I flew with my Rio that I was TAC org with, tactical organization. So I flew almost half of my Tomcat hours with him, because we did all of workups and all deployment, where I flew 90% of my flights with him. So great guy. And we got to fly the jet out to the Boneyard together on a cross country. And I remember stopping in Meridian, Mississippi, which is where the other advanced jet training air station is for the Navy. And, you know, we come in for the, 550 full afterburner shit hot break, like in the Tomcat, bringing it, knowing that might be the last time they see this thing, you know? It's like this big fighter, and we land, and people are like, oh, there's a Tomcat, you know? So that was really cool. But it was also, like, it was really sad because we did that at the first place we stopped. The second place, we stopped somewhere in Middle America. I can't remember where, but it was a civilian airfield. So we came in for the break, but we couldn't really bring it because of noise abatement. And then when we went out to Davis Monthan, it was like, it was bittersweet. One, they said, hey, there's an F4, that's your interval, which we were like, holy shit, that's so cool, because they were converting these F4s to, I don't know if you call them a drone, but to basically like fly remotely, and then they were using as missile targets and like blow them up. But so we had an F4 that was our interval, which is cool, but they don't let you, maybe it's changed now, but back then they wouldn't let you come into the overhead because too many people were coming in knowing this is the last time they're going to be in that airplane and basically just ripping the wings off in the break. And it was a noise abatement thing. So they made you do straight in approaches, which is just horrifying that your last time landing the big fighter is on a straight in. So that was a little bit sad, but it was fun. And we like did the long taxi past a bunch of other old airplanes, and you know, you get out and they're hawking you because they tell you, like, you better not steal anything out of that airplane. The stick better be there, the throttle better be there, because people take all this stuff out, you know, use it as like a bar thing, or anyhow, it's just kind of funny. You know, we got to, you know, very strict instructions. You will take nothing out of the airplane.
Wow.
But yeah, it was fun. It was a good sort of, especially with my Rio, that we got to kind of do this last hurrah trip out west. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, totally.
Cool. Yeah, that's fantastic. Do you remember? I'm sorry, Amy, you had a question first.
Oh no, have you gone to visit the aircraft in the boneyard?
You know what? Not yet. And I actually was out in Tucson for a job interview last year, but it was so quickly I didn't have any time to go. But I am. Those are little things that I'm glad someday I'll go with my grandkids, you know.
Sure.
Like, you gotta go to the boneyard, and Grandma used to fly planes.
You go to see Grandma's Tomcat?
It's gonna be so different by then. Totally. So I think that'll be really fun and special to get to do someday.
Yeah.
That's cool.
My husband Adam, who is recording this for us, just wants to know, so what did you take out of the aircraft?
I'm a rule follower. I'm not a rebel. I didn't take anything because they were like, we will take you to Captain's Mast. Like, it was like a you shall not.
Oh.
I mean, they were like, we were pretty casual. Like I said, it was this fighter spirit kind of thing.
Yeah.
But not with that. They're like, you will get in big trouble. This is war reserve. They need all the parts of these airplanes. So I remember one of my buddies was like, I took something. I'm like, no, you did not. What did you take?
Oh my God, you're going to get in trouble.
No one found out, but I won't say his name because, you know,
right.
But he took, there was a landing checklist that was like on somewhere in the cockpit, which was fucking like large, but it was basically a little placard with the landing checklist, so he just unscrewed that and took it. So he didn't take any of the mechanical components. Yeah, but it was a good one. It was something little to steal.
Yeah.
But no, I was too petrified I'd get in trouble.
Oh no, I'm the same way. I do not want to get in trouble. I'd be like, no, they said not to do it.
Somebody's gonna tell on me. I'm such a rule follower too.
Totally.
Do you remember your first flight in the Tomcat? The first time you got to do it?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Well, I mean, I even remember the first time I drove onto Oceana, and I saw Tomcats in the break because,
oh my gosh.
I mean, I saw Top Gun when I was 10 years old, and I was absolutely infatuated. And that's like, I wanted to be an accountant and go to Notre Dame. And then I saw Top Gun one night, and I was like, I'm going to be a fighter pilot. And it completely changed the trajectory of my entire life. But so, like, this airplane is what I had dreamed about for literally 14 years of my life. And then I'm driving into the base, and there, I'm like getting chills even telling you this. You know, it comes in the break, the wings are back, and it's so sexy. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to fly that. This is amazing. And then on your first flight, it's the only airplane within recent time frame, definitely since I was been in the Navy, but there's no trainer in the Tomcat. So like if you're a student now and you go to fly the Hornet or the Super Hornet, your first flight, you're in an FT, a trainer that has a stick in the back. So they put an instructor pilot in the back. So if you totally goon it away, or like there's an intense emergency, I got the controls in the back and you're just a passenger. That does not exist in the Tomcat. The first time you go, like, giddy up, it's on you. Like, and then that thing breaks down. So like there are guys I know that on their second flight, the wings get stuck back or something, and you're like, well, that's why we did 19 sims and had you do all these emergency procedures because it's go time, And they would put an instructor pilot back there, but it's an instructor pilot with no controls, which, God, I would not want to do that. This is petrifying. I was an instructor pilot later, and I would never want to be in the back of a plane with a student pilot without controls.
Oh my God, go left.
Yeah, the whole thing, right? And then, so it's just little, I remember being like, oh, I hope I get the wings out, because the wing thing everyone knew was hard to move around a little bit, and getting them locked in to take off. But the first time you go full power in an airplane like that, and you just get thrown back in the back of the seat, and then you've got a rocket attached to you. You know what I mean? There's just nothing like it. It's just, it was one of those, I literally dreamed about it for 14 years, and you think, oh, the build up, the expectation, it can't meet the dream. It surpassed it. It was amazing.
That's fantastic.
And then you get to land and say, holy shit, I'm actually a fighter pilot. I've been thinking and dreaming and working so hard for this for so long, and now I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe it's like a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's great to even think about it because it's been a long time. But yeah, no, I totally remember, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, awesome. So as you're describing that, all I have in my head is the Luke Skywalker looking at the suns from on Tatooine, just having this epic moment of
Totally. And I remember in my that wasn't my first flight, because I remember it was on the syllabus event for the second event. They called it the Zoom climb. You go to 500 feet out over the water, and you go to full afterburner. And I don't know if we actually had an airspeed we'd go to, or if we would just kind of go until it wouldn't go anymore. And then you would park the nose 70 degrees nose up, and you would climb until I think you hit 350 knots, and then you'd roll over and level off. And I mean, we climbed up to 35,000 feet. I mean, it doesn't have it over, the thrust to wing ratio isn't positive, so you will eventually lose airspeed. But I mean, you basically just rocket up into the air,
awesome.
For a very long time. Yeah, it's just amazing. You're I can't believe this is my life.
Wow. How long does that take you to get to 30,000 feet?
I don't remember, but
okay.
Not long.
Right. That's what I was like.
You're going fast when you're down there. It seems like it happens pretty quick. And I mean, you start rolling over at 350, but you're still climbing thousands of feet because you're not pulling down fast. So I mean, the Tomcat was so much faster than the Hornet or the Super Hornet. I mean, that thing just wanted to go supersonic. It wanted to haul ass. The Hornet and the Super Hornet, you would have to really try. You'd be like, oh, well, we've got some rails on it, so now I have to be up at 35,000 feet, pointing nose down, full afterburner, and maybe I'll hit the number. But not the Tomcat. That thing wanted to go. It was really fun.
Oh, it makes me so sad to hear that you had to get rid of it. That there was an end time to it. I'm like, oh, it sounds so awesome.
With the tactics we use now, the Tomcat would have slayed. I mean, it was built for the way we fight now, so it's kind of sad, but I guess that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
Well, so you talked a little bit about the Super Hornet too. How was that in comparison, not just climbing, but in comparison to flying?
Right. I think, and I won't take credit for this analogy. I've used it many, many, many times because it's just the best analogy that I think immediately paints a clear picture in someone else's mind of what it's like. So imagine that you're 16 years old, you've just gotten your license, and your dad's like, here are the keys. It's a 1976 Chevelle. It's a muscle car. There's no power locks. There's no power steering. And it's just sexy and raw and fast and fun. And you just feel so freaking cool, and you love to drive it. It's everything you've ever dreamed. And then, it starts leaking a little, and it's not super reliable. And your dad's like, we don't want you guys driving this anymore. So here are the keys to your 2019 Audi. And it's something, so it's cool, and it's got automatic everything, and it's got GPS, and it's sort of cool, and it's fast, but it's just, it's
not the same
thing. It doesn't have that sex appeal or that charisma or that,
right.
It doesn't have that thing that we can't really describe. It's not the same. So that's what it was like. It went from having an airplane that was stick and rudder, and if you were in a dogfight flying slow, you would have to know, I need to do a little top rudder and a little opposite stick and a little this to get it to go where I want it to go, and really feel like you're strapped into that airplane and really be a part of it, to being in a Super Hornet and a Hornet where it's all auto trim. And so that's weird. And so you have less kind of feel. And if you want to go left, you always just put the stick left, and the computer says, okay, I need to do this with my control surfaces to make it go that way. And so I remember like the young students I'd be training, and obviously the airplane dynamics were different as well, but they were like, they never used their rudders. And on the Tomcat, I used to like do a lot of form flying stuff with my rudders, and like I don't think they were as in tune, or I wouldn't say they, because that makes it sound like it's a piloting thing. It's impossible to be the same amount of in tune with the airplane when everything is that automated for you,
Right.
which is cool. It makes it easier to use it as a weapon, which is ultimately what we're doing. So you can do a lot more stuff by yourself with it, but it's just not the same experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
Sure.
something's lost there. And on the same token, it's a newer airframe, and so the Navy's worried about longevity of the airframe, and they now know like if we pull this amount of G on the airplane for this long, it's only going to last X amount of years. And so, sort of on that transition piece, you know, when I was flying Tomcats, I love this. Just anyone who knows aviation will sort of get this, but I remember when we would be coming in to go to the break, and they'd say switch tower, and the Rio would always say, hey, up tower squawks off. And I thought that was literally like standard operating procedure. You turn the squawk off. And I never really thought about why, but I recognize now it's because we were always hauling ass, and you weren't supposed to be hauling ass, but everybody just let the Tomcats do it because it's the Tomcat, and everyone was supposed to be at 350 knots in the break at Oceana, but not the Tomcat. So we just take the squawk off. And we came in full afterburner, like 550 knots, basically every single time we came into the break, because we were Tomcat pilots, and that's what you did. And I mean, I remember
That's awesome.
I came in on the wing of a commanding officer from my air wing, and he was a CO of a Hornet squadron, and we had done some mixed section stuff. So I came back with him because I think my flight lead had come back early or something. So it was him in the knee and then his wingman. So we were a 3-plane. And we come in, and we're at like, you know, 380 or something, and with the wings back on the big fighter, like we would manually sweep the wings back for the break because it looks cool. Like, I mean, they didn't go back, you know, like if you were going fast, they would auto sweep, but we always kick them back in the break regardless because it looks better. And so I'm debriefing on the phone with this commanding officer, and he was totally like such a quintessential fighter guy, like super cool, and like just really machismo guy. And we're debriefing on the phone, and this again is just, I have no awareness that this is such like an a-hole thing to do. But he's like, oh, do you have anything for me, like this admin debrief? And I was like, well, you know, when we come in the break, it's hard for us to come in at that speed. Like, you really need to give us at least 400 knots with the wings back, because it's hard to fly at that speed. It's like, well, it'd be better if you were in tight formation. I'm like, I can't be in tight formation when I can't have any response to my controls because we're so slow. My wings are back. But for them, that was like a fast break. And here I am, this like JG chick who's basically like, you didn't bring it in the break, and it was lame. And I mean, that's just the Tomcat, you know, like it was just totally different. What did that make me think of? This is also like a good comparison of the communities. When I was a student pilot in the Tomcat, we were in Key West doing a fighter detachment, and there's no G limiter in the Tomcat, and the G limit was 6.5 G. So like if you just yank on the stick, you're definitely going to overstress. And we were doing a snapshot drill, which is basically where you do a guns defense in case someone's trying to shoot you with their air-to-air gun. And so every time we do some kind of maneuver, afterwards we do sort of a speed and angles check and reset, and they also do a gas check and a G check. And I was like, oh, you know, I overstressed. And they're like, how bad? I'm like, by a full G, which is a lot. Like normally if you overstress by 0.1. And I did it in this like maneuver that you normally would not really overstress. So I just like yanked it on really, really aggressively. And if you do that in the Super Hornet, which I then saw later when I was an instructor pilot, as soon as you overstress, they're like, oh, all right, flight's over. We're going back home. You're doing this straight in. You fail the flight. Like it is like we can't believe you've done this. I did this on the very first part of the flight in the Tomcat. My instructor was like, dude, that looked really cool in my hood. Let's just keep going. And so then I overstressed 2 more times on the flight. We came in for the 550 knot full afterburner break with 3 overstresses on the airframe. I gave the maintainers a case of beer and said, thanks, dude. And they were like, above, way to be aggressive. Like, so that's the difference. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, it's just a mentality. It's like a way you exist in the community. It was just totally different. One was like, that was awesome, that was cool. And one was, oh, no, that's a below because you were just a little bit too aggressive on that. It's lame.
That is lame.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
did you see
I'm
what
like,
I'm
we're fighter
flying?
pilots. Come on. Do you
Have
see
you
how
seen
cool
it?
this airplane looks? Like, it's meant to be overstressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, anyhow.
Wow. I was supposed to mention that question, by the way, was Chris Henry's.
Oh,
The
yeah.
was
difference
it?
between a Tomcat and a Hornet. Yeah.
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 And
So.
the note next to it says, "She will laugh."
That's totally true. He loves my answer to that one. He's definitely heard it before.
He also told us that you flew on an all-female crew.
I did. I had a couple of opportunities to do that when I was a student in the Tomcat RAG. We got to pick who we went out to do our carrier qualifications with, and there was one female Rio instructor, and we just really got along really well. And I was like, "Hey, I want to go to the boat with you." And she had a great rep as an instructor as well. And she was like, "Are you sure? Like, we might get a lot of crap." And I'm like, "I want it to go well for you." And I was like, "No, like, I want to go with you." She's like, "Awesome." So we went out and did carrier calls together, and there's just something so right about two chicks up in the big fighter, like having girl talk and Marshall wait to come down. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's just something beautifully perfect about that scenario. And then we were fueling up, and there was a maintainer, this really great chick maintainer, and she was kind of like yelling to us, you know, and we were lip reading. She's like, "Do you know what they're calling you?" And we're like, "No, what?" She's like, "They're calling you the pussycat." I was like, "That's way better than the box office or the unmanned vehicle. Like, I'll take it. Pussycat, yeah." I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Right? Totally. And then one of my, right? And then later in my career, my fleet squadron, I had a chick Rio, my fleet squadron, Amy Spurreddit, who would go on to be a Blue Angel. Just phenomenal human being, very close friend of mine to this day. I love her to death. And it's funny, like, they didn't really let us fly together very often. I won't tell you what my OPSO said at the time about that because, well, nothing good comes of it. But there were a few, like, it was her birthday in deployment, and she said, "I want to fly with Meegan," and so they let us fly together once at deployment. And then after deployment, I think before we transitioned, we took a jet on the road for the weekend. So we went down to Key West and partied it up down in Key West. And that was, you know, again, that's just fun. We're like, me and my girlfriend are taking a big fighter to go down to Key West and party, you know, like it was just good memories. And we ended up meeting a guy down there. He was in a T-45 from test pilot school who went on to be an astronaut, live at the space station. You know what I mean? And he said, "Yeah, we saw, like, we just landed and we're getting out of the T-45 and we see someone coming, like, just rip it, like, break it off and bringing, you know," he was just like, "You're bringing the heat, like, great break." And we're like, "Who's that dude bringing the big fighter in?" And then we see two chicks getting out. It was the coolest thing ever. He's like, "That's not what we were expecting."
Yeah, I bet they were.
I was like, "I'm glad you make your dreams come true, guys."
Right? Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
oh man, so yes, a little bit of female crew time. Not a lot, but all very memorable, good experiences for sure.
Yeah, they're we've interviewed a lot of WASP through our work, and that's a very similar story to what they've told.
Yeah,
get out of the
totally.
plane and
it's
they're like, "What?"
Talking to them. What? I'm so confused. This is not the mental image I had. won't be the last time, buddy.
Yeah. My follow-up question was if you noticed any different dynamics with working with a woman instead of with a man in that situation, but you kind of answered that question already. I'm like,
yeah, no, I think it's fun, and I think we're, for the most part, we're such sort of kindred spirits because you are so isolated that, you know, and on all the women that I had the privilege of flying with at the time, it was just a really great camaraderie and a good friendship, and it was really fun and special to get to be up there together. That's not the case all the time. I think we all know that there are the women who really encourage and support other women instinctively, and then there are the women who are quite the opposite. But for most of my career, I really encountered the former, not the latter. So I was lucky in that regard.
Good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I never understood that, like why you wouldn't why you don't support other women.
Yeah, why you wouldn't foster
I
that.
think, well, in the women who did it in the fighter community, and there definitely were a few, and to this day it's funny, I have more disdain for them than I do for the really not good men, because there's always bad people in any environment.
Right.
But I think it just comes from a lot of insecurity and wanting to fit in.
Yeah.
And they think if they're in the group with the guys who are talking shit on the other girls, that somehow they're like one of the guys.
Right.
And, you know, I never did that to fit in with the guys, but for easily the first year of my experience in my junior officer tour, I really tried to be one of the guys and fit in and sort of tell the dirty jokes. And and then I just realized after a long time, like, I'm not ever going to be one of the guys. Like, I'm just not. And that's not a hit on them, and that's not a hit on me. That's
no.
I'm
it's
a
just
woman
not who you
that
are.
is sort of trying to assimilate. I should be really proud that I'm a woman. You know what I mean? And, like, that's okay.
No.
And I can have boundaries.
Be you,
And I think other women just don't get to that point, and that's just from a confidence problem. And so they end up attacking their own, and that's just even more isolating, and it's just a path to just a lot of unhappiness. And, you know, you just got to shut it and say, that's her path, and that's how she's going to go forward, but I'm not going to replicate, and I'm not going to be that kind of example for others.
Right. That's very well said.
Yeah.
It's very well said.
I agree. So with that, what kind of advice would you give somebody trying to get into flying, you know, being a fighter pilot or being a naval aviator?
I would just say stick with it. Like, it's for a lot of people, it's a long journey, but I'm a firm believer, and if you really want something, you're going to figure out a way to do it. There are, of course, people that have some medical something that precludes them, and those are just hard situations, and I understand that. But I think for the majority of people, you want it and you work hard and you do it. You know, I was a 10-year-old kid who wanted to be a fighter pilot. Women weren't allowed to be fighter pilots. There was no one in my life that, you know, had done that before. I didn't have an easy into the Naval Academy. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't rich. I couldn't afford stuff. Like, you want it, you figure it out. And you don't take no for an answer. And you just, you know, I tell my kids all the time, it's funny now, my 7-year-old kind of rolls her eyes when I ask her, but I say, like, what's the key to success? And my kids already know. Like, my 3-year-old will say, work hard and believe in yourself. And I'm like, that's right. So anytime we try something, I'm like, what are you going to do? She's like, I'm going to work hard. I'm like, do you believe in yourself? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, and who always believes in you? She's like, you and Daddy. And I was like, that's right.
That's
like,
amazing.
It makes it easier if you have somebody who believes in you, but even if you don't, if you believe in yourself, there's a lot of power in that. Like, work hard, just believe that you can do it. Because if you go in thinking, oh, it's going to be hard, I don't know. I mean, when I was 10, I didn't think I'm not going to get into the Naval Academy. I was like, no, I'm going to the Naval Academy. And then I'm going to go to flight school. And then I'm going to get a jet pod. And then I'm going to fly the big fighter. Just watch me do it. Like, and that was a cocky little shit. And I had no reason to have that much confidence, but I did.
But you made it happen.
It worked out.
Yeah. It did work out.
You made it happen because you believed in yourself.
Make it till you make it. Or there's so much power in that. And I think a lot of people don't realize. And again, it is easier. I had really great parents who just always said, yes, you can. Like, never, like, they knew women weren't flying jets when I said I wanted to be a fighter pilot. They didn't tell me that because they were like, no, she's going to do it. So that makes it easier, but is that required?
Right.
It's not, you know, just go for it and just keep hustling and looking for angles and looking for ways to make it happen until you find the right path, you know?
I bet your parents were happy that they started accepting women.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're like, oh, crap.
Oh, God.
Totally. No, totally.
That's great. That's
so I think that's totally.
So we kind of did a little research on you online as well. So you flew during like a stalker, like a psycho.
Oh boy! I hope I
didn't say psycho.
Anyway, so you flew during the Iraq War.
I did. I deployed in 05, 06. We did all of our combat flights were in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So we were flying into Iraq. Basically, like every other 2 days or every other day, we would do an OIF mission, and the rest of the time we would be airborne spares. And if we didn't get pulled into the combat op, we would just go do kind of like a recce in the Gulf. So we would count ships and just tell them what we were seeing around the carrier.
Was that what you thought it would be like to go over there, or was it more of an eye opener?
Yeah, I would say that The expectation, it was pretty accurate. And obviously you do a year of workups to really train, and you kind of talk to the other guys that just come back to know what current ops are looking like. It wasn't a super active time when we were there. There were only, I won't say a small handful, but like maybe 15 to 20% of the air crew that were lieutenants. The rest of us just, and I did once. So I don't know if you want to use the word lucky, but like I was one of the lesser number that got to do that. But it was a lot of close air support. And that's just a cool, scary, fulfilling experience. Because you do all this training and you watch a movie and you dream about being a fighter pilot, but ultimately, like, you have to come to grips with what that actually means and what that actually is. And that's not about doing flybys and going to Key West. It's about, going to support our ground troops in combat operations and potentially having really, really large impact on people's lives on the ground. And so regardless if people were releasing ordnance or not, we were eyes in the sky, you know what I mean? Like the sort of big brothers watching for our brothers and sisters in arms. And that was a wonderful experience that I'll take with me forever. And there were a lot of flights that were really boring. There were a lot of flights that were just flying around the queue, and I'm doing Sudoku, and it's, it's what it is. But there were a select number of flights that were, I'll say life-changing, because you can hear the fear in people's voices, or you can, when they're calling you on the radio and they're saying, Black Cat, whatever, you got to bust her down to Baghdad right now. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, holy shit, people are dying, and that's just a real thing. And to be able to be there and in any capacity provide support or cover or anything, even if it's minute, like even if it only impacts one person's life who's in a lot of danger, I mean, it's just a really profound and special thing to be able to do for someone else. So it was a really, really great experience.
Yeah, that's one is enough, I think. So
yeah, no, totally. And I always, when people ask about it, I say it's a great thing to be able to save life without taking life. Yeah. So most of us will be able to provide some measure of safety and do it without having to, harm anyone else, which, that is a good thing when you have that opportunity.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So are you still in the military, or what are you doing these days?
So I'm in the Navy Reserves now. So I did 11 years on active duty, and then I left active duty shortly after having my first child. And then I was in the Navy Reserves for 3 years. I worked for a small defense contracting company. And then after 3 years of the reserves, I was mobilized back onto active duty. So then I was in active duty orders for about 2.5 years. Stateside, I was at a Fleet Forces Command, which is like the Atlantic Fleet for the Navy. So I worked there for 2.5 years, and then I demobilized this past summer and took a job with Amazon. So now I live out in Seattle and work for Amazon, and I'm still a reservist, and I've got about 3 more years left in the reserves, and then I'll retire.
That's awesome.
Do you still get to do a lot of flying?
Yeah. No, I decided not to. There are a lot of reservist pilots who fly, and that works really well if you're either one in a federal employee job, which gives you a lot of time off for your reserves, or if you're an airline pilot, because you just have a lot of time off. But if you want to fly, like, I just wouldn't be able to fly regular, so it'd be hard with proficiency and currency. So one, you would just never feel proficient, and two, to maintain currency where you're actually helpful for the squadron that you're flying with, it'd be really challenging given the work, because I just have a full-time, if you have a traditional full-time job, that's just really hard. And after having a baby and then going back into the cockpit, I definitely understood, like, the proficiency in that type of an airplane is really important. And I was like, I don't want to be dusting rust off every single time I get in the cockpit. And I was like, I want to have more kids, and, things change. But eventually I need to find a plane big enough to fit the whole family, because my husband's really tall. I got 3 kids now and a dog. So I'm like, I got to save up some money and then buy an airplane with some friends. Yeah. So we can start flying around. I can teach the kids how to fly.
There you go. Yeah. You need like a 5-seater.
Yeah. That'll just be a slight downgrade from the Tomcat.
Plane, like, it's not like it's scary to me. You'd laugh. I'm like, oh my God, there's no ejection seat. Something happens. There's a prop. I don't remember how to fly a prop. Like, what is that thing? I mean, it's just really funny. You feel very safe, because you just get out of jail, like, free card, which is called your ejection handle.
You don't get one of those in a Citabria or a Cessna.
No.
It's much slower.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's a lot slower.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm getting time cues from our our friendly Adam, our producer, that we're coming up on our time. So it was so nice to have this conversation.
Yeah, it was
fantastic.
wonderful.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, thanks so much, women of aviation. I appreciate you guys wanting to talk to me. It always feels special.
Thank you so much for being on our show. We really appreciate it.
So we just talked to Meegan about being a naval aviator. And Kara and I were just kind of doing a little research, and we found an interesting article about why they specifically are called naval aviators versus fighter pilots.
Yeah, so in the article, it says, I'm just going to read it because it's going to be way easier than me trying to interpret this. For large ships, this pilot is someone from outside who literally comes into your boat and drives it into the harbor because he or she knows the area better than anyone else. So the Navy's really old, as we all know.
Predates airplanes.
And they already had a term for pilot, which is somebody who is driving the boat. So that's why they refer to themselves as aviators. So that's kind of really interesting.
It's a cool piece of history.
Yeah, because it says the pilot will roll up next to your ship aboard a pilot boat, which carries a pilot in a boat, one marked pilot boat. That's a really confusing sentence. It says, and those poor guys have to climb up the side of your ship just to park it for you. Both naval aviators and maritime pilots have a hard job that allows for zero error. So call them whatever you want.
Or call them whatever they want.
So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to learn a little something new every day, even though we know a little bit about this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know a lot about ships though. So in the Navy,
that's true. I don't know a lot about the Navy.
So
yeah. So that was Commander Meagan Flannigan, and we're really happy she was able to take some time and chat with us on our show. Check out our Facebook page for more info. We'll post some links for articles for more information for her and, general stuff. If you follow our Facebook page, it's Air Raid Radio. And our sponsors are Hemlock Films and Spotlight Business Solutions. So check us out on our next show, which will be coming soon, ? We are
maybe Oshkosh. Maybe we'll have a live thing at Oshkosh.
Maybe we'll try and get one before that, but we're always very, as always, very busy. Yeah. Just very glad that we got another one done. Thank you to our producer Matt Jolly for putting us on the show on putting our show on Warbird Radio, and to Adam White for recording our show for us and putting up with us. And thanks for listening to Air Raid Radio. And we're going to leave you with one last thought.
Are you sure? The Navy's got good pilots. They call them aviators in the Navy. They say they're better than pilots.